right, we're live on Facebook. Krishna. Here we go. Whoops, wrong camera. Hold on a second. I got the other camera there. Wrong camera. Oh, that's why. There we go. Here we go. Set up perfectly. Okay. So we will chant Jai Radha Madhava before class. Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunya Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Ranhumad Uva Kunya Bihari Jaya Ranhumad Uva Kunya Bihari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Gopi Janaballabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Ranhumad Uva Kunya Bihari Jaya Ranhumad Uva Kunya Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace, Advaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Param Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Ki Jai Maturam Ki Jai Jagadavasami Ki Jai Yavunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glories, the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namaham Vishnu Padaya. Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namni Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarni. So Om Gana Timidanda Shagananjana Shlakaya Chakshu Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we're continuing with our study of the Nectar of Devotion, and as we always do when we're studying the Nectar of Devotion, we will chant the prayers of the six Goswamis, especially just this one stanza. Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarano Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Mande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopala Ko. So, my glasses, the translation. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Okay, so now we will continue with our study of the Nectar of Devotion. We're on chapter 9, and I believe we're going to talk about japa today, which is the next topic. Okay, we're sharing. So, japa is defined here. Chanting a mantra or hymn softly and slowly is called japa, and chanting the same mantra loudly is called kirtana. For example, uttering the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, very softly, only for one's own hearing, is called japa. Chanting the same mantra loudly for being heard by all others is called kirtana. The Maha Mantra can be used for japa and kirtan also. When japa is practiced, it is for the personal benefit of the chanter, but when kirtan is performed, it is for the benefit of all others who may hear. In the Padma Purana, there is a statement, for any person who is chanting the holy name either softly or loudly, the paths to liberation and even heavenly happiness are at once open. So, of course, those who are members of the Krishna consciousness movement know that we take a vow to chant at least 16 rounds of the Maha Mantra on the japa beats every day. And, of course, we have kirtan too and everything like that. And that's minimum, and on Ekadasi we try to chant more. And if one wants to learn how to chant better japa, you should study Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtaka prayers, which teach you to have the right mood while you're chanting Krishna's name. Okay, submission. In the Skanda Purana, there's a statement about submission unto the lotus feet of the Lord. It is said there that those who are sober devotees can offer their submission to Krishna in the following 3 ways. Samprarthanat hita. That means very feelingly offering prayers. Daya humbly submitting oneself. And 3, lala samayi, desiring some perfectional stage. So, sometimes these overlap, obviously. So, obviously, you can be very feelingly offering prayers and also desiring some perfectional stage and also be humbly submitting yourself simultaneously in the same prayer. But anyway, these are three different categories. This desiring some perfectional stage in spiritual life is not sense gratification. When one realizes something of his constitutional relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he understands his original position and wants to be reinstated in this position, either as a friend, servant, parent, or a conjugal lover of Krishna. That is called lalasamai, or very eagerly desiring to go to one's natural position. This lalasamai stage of submission comes in the stage of perfect liberation, which is technically called sarupa siddhi. Sarupa means one's form, siddhi means perfection. So that means when one realizes, when the living entity understands by perfect spiritual advancement and revelation his original relationship with the Lord. And as we've mentioned many times before, each and every one of us has a particular relationship with the Lord that we have forgotten. And by the process of bhakti, we come to the stage where we can remember our particular relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we see it, and then we confirm it with our spiritual master or some advanced devotee. And we either get it confirmed or the advanced devotee says, no, that ain't your relationship. And then you follow in the footsteps of someone who is called a ragatmika devotee, some eternal devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the spiritual world, like Mother Yashoda, like Subal, Sudam, coward boys, like Daruka, or like one of the gopis or assistant gopis. In the Padma Purana, there's a statement of submission in feeling by devotees praying to the Lord. My Lord, I know that young girls have natural affection for young boys, and that young boys have natural affection for young girls. I am praying at your lotus feet that my mind may become attracted unto you in the same spontaneous way. The example is very appropriate. When a young boy or girl sees a member of the opposite sex, there is natural attraction without the need for any introduction. Without any training, there's a natural attraction due to the sex impulse. This is a material example, but the devotee is praying that he may develop a similar spontaneous attachment for the Supreme Lord, free from any desire for profit and without any other cause. This natural attraction for the Lord is the perfectional stage of self-realization. In other words, one can pray like that. If you find yourself spontaneously attracted to anything, not just the opposite sex. I mean, we may be spontaneously attracted to a car or a computer. That's kind of interesting. Then we just pray, that same attraction I'm feeling, or for the forest, just like you see a nice background that's behind me right now, to a waterfall. You know, spontaneous attraction. No one had to train me up to be attracted to a waterfall. It's just very beautiful. So we pray to Krishna when we see these things. That's another way of dealing with attractive features of this material world. Because we're all attracted, unless we're pure devotees, we're all attracted to certain aspects of this material world. So we can pray to Krishna. The same spontaneity that I'm experiencing right now, I pray to experience a relationship to you in the spiritual world. So, in the same Padma Purana, there's a statement about submission and humbleness. It is stated there, my dear Lord, there is no sinful living entity who is more of a sinner than myself, nor is there a greater offender than myself. I am so greatly sinful and offensive that when I come to confess my sinful activities before you, I am ashamed. This is a natural position for a devotee. As far as the conditioned soul is concerned, there is no wonder that he has some sinful activities in his past life, and this should be admitted and confessed before the Lord. As soon as this is done, the Lord excuses the sincere devotee. But that does not mean that one should take advantage of the Lord's court, should take advantage of the Lord's causeless mercy and expect to be excused over and over again while he commits the same sinful activities. Such a mentality is only for shameless persons. Here it is clearly said, when I come to confess my sinful activities, I become ashamed. So if a person is not ashamed of his sinful activities and continues to commit the same sinful activities with the knowledge that the Lord will excuse him, that is a most nonsensical proposition. Such an idea is not accepted in any part of the Vedic literature. It is a fact that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one becomes washed clean of all sinful activities from his past life, but that does not mean that after being washed off, one should again begin sinful activities and expect to be washed again. These are nonsensical propositions and are not admitted in devotional service. Someone may think, for a whole week I may commit sinful activities, and for one day I will go to the temple or church and admit my sinful activities so that I can become washed off and again begin my sinning. This is most nonsensical and offensive and is not acceptable to the author of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In other words, that's one of the offenses on chanting, the seventh offense, to commit sins on the strength of chanting. And as Prabhupada said, you will get forgiven first time, second time, and Prabhupada made reference to the American game of baseball, and he said, third strike and you are out. In other words, you don't lose your devotional service or whatever you've done. As Krishna says, this is your eternal benefit. Swapamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahatobayat. However, you will get put aside for some time. That's unfortunate, because you are being insincere. And of course, Prabhupada here is making reference to different religions where they confess once a week. And as I mentioned sometime before, either past class or one of the past classes, there are religions where you confess once a year. And then you're supposed to be freed from all your sins. So what we say is don't sin, sin no more. Like Jesus Christ, there's an interesting story in the Bible. There was a prostitute that was going to be stoned to death. And he stopped the whole stoning procedure. And he said, if anyone here is without sins, then he can throw the stone first, or the first stone. And nobody threw it. And then he said to the lady who was saved, go now and sin no more. So, in the Narada Pancharatra, there's a statement of submission accompanied by the desire for perfection. There's two at one time. The devotee says, my dear Lord, when shall that day come when you will ask me to fan your body according to your pleasure? You will say, just fan me in this way. The idea in this verse is that the devotee is desiring to personally fan the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means that he is desiring to become the personal associate of the Supreme Lord. Of course, any devotee in any capacity, either a servant, friend, or conjugal lover, always has direct association with the Lord. But according to his different individual taste, a person desires for just one of these relationships. Here the devotee is desiring to become a servant of the Lord and desires to fan the Lord, as does his internal energy, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. He also wishes that the personality of Godhead will be pleased to give him directions as to how to fan. This submission with transcendental desire, or lalasa mayi vyapti, is the highest perfectional stage of spiritual realization. In other words, when one is at the platform where one understands what one's eternal relationship is with Krishna, then you're just like hankering to be able to do it and begging Krishna to give you the mercy to be able to do it. In the same Narada Pancharatra, there's another expression of submission wherein the devotee says, my dear Lord, O lotus-eyed one, when will that day come when on the bank of the Yamuna I shall become just like a madman and continue to chant your holy name while incessant tears flow from my eyes? And of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur oftentimes wrote poems in that particular mood. Kabi Habi Bolo Se Dinamar. That means, when will that day be mine? And of course, in the Shikshashika, you also have that too. When will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? This is another perfectional stage. Now, we can also, if we don't mix it with our understanding or misunderstanding of who we are in the spiritual world, we can still have this intense hankering, this longing. Maybe not in relationship to a particular relationship with Krishna, but in relationship to being with Krishna in the spiritual world or being with Krishna in the holy dham. Like sometimes when a devotee visits the holy dham, he develops such an attraction, he or she develops such an attraction to the holy dham that they're just thinking, when can I go back again? When can I circumambulate Govardhan again? Why am I being prohibited by this COVID virus? Curse the COVID virus. Lord Chaitanya also desired that a moment will appear unto me as 12 years of time, and the whole world will appear to me as vacant on account of not seeing you, my dear Lord. One should feelingly pray and become eager to render his particular type of service to the Lord. This is the teaching of all great devotees, especially Lord Chaitanya. In other words, one should learn how to cry for the Lord. One should learn this small technique, and he should be very eager and actually cry to become engaged in some particular type of service. This is called lo yam, and such tears are the price for the highest perfection. If one develops this lo yam, or intense eagerness for meeting and serving the Lord in a particular way, that is the price to enter into the kingdom of God. Otherwise, there is no material calculation for the value of the ticket by which one can enter the kingdom of God. The only price for such entrance is this lo yam lalasamai, or desire and great eagerness. Remember this, very, very important. Very, very important. And this lo yam, or lalasamai, can help you transcend the bodily platform. Just like previously we were reading in this chapter about dancing for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if one really wants to dance, or really wants to be with the Lord, one will dance. It shows one's desire. And if you're simply shuffling and not dancing, maybe you don't desire so much. What do you want? Krishna's actually testing your desire, because you know, according to what we read previously, by dancing, you're going to get the Lord's mercy and go back to Godhead and become Krishna conscious. You know it. Or maybe you don't know it. Or maybe you don't have faith in it. So it's actually a test of your faith. In other words, that's the ticket. Like Prabhupada here says, actually, or otherwise, there is no material calculation for the value of the ticket by which one can enter the kingdom of God. So the ticket is this lo yam, and that's manifest by your actions. You can say, I really, really want Krishna. I really want Krishna. Then why don't you do something, you rascal? Dance if you really want Krishna. So reciting notable prayers. According to great learned scholars, the whole Bhagavad Gita contains many authorized prayers, especially the 11th chapter, where Arjuna prays to the universal form of the Lord. Similarly, in the Gautamya Tantra, all the verses are called prayers. Again, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are hundreds of prayers to the Lord. Actually, there's thousands. So a devotee should select some of these prayers for his recitation. In Skanda Purana, the glories of these prayers are stated as follows. Devotees whose tongues are decorated always with prayers to Lord Krishna are always given respect even by the great saintly persons and sages, and such devotees are actually worshipable by the demigods. Those who are less intelligent want to worship different demigods for some material gain, rather than worship Krishna. But here it is stated that a devotee who is always engaged in offering prayers to the Lord is worshipable even by the demigods themselves. The pure devotees have nothing to ask from any demigod. Rather, the demigods are anxious to offer prayers to the pure devotees. And you can make your own prayers up if they are consistent with the prayers of the pure devotees offered for pure devotional service. Just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I mentioned before, has his prayer, "Oh Gopinath, I'm a materialistic rascal. Please take this sinner weeping and weeping to your lotus feet." So you can paraphrase or put something in your own words. You can say, "Oh, Radhagalokananda, I am just the biggest rascal in this world." Of course, Prabhupada one time said, "You're not the biggest anything," but anyway. Because devotees sometimes, or people want to be the biggest something. So, I'm just a hopeless rascal. I have no desire to be Krishna conscious. Help, help. And that's pretty much in the same mood. So you can make up your own prayers like that. And then the Nrsimha Purana is stated, any person who comes before the deity of Lord Krishna and begins to chant different prayers is immediately relieved from all the reactions of sinful activities and becomes eligible without any doubt to enter into the Vaikuntha Loka. Wow. Now here's the next one, prasad. We don't have to convince anyone about this, partaking of prasada. There is this specific statement in the Padma Purana. A person who honors the prasada and regularly eats it, not exactly in front of the deity, along with charanamrita, that is the water offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, which is mixed with the seeds of the tulsi tree, immediately can achieve the results of pious activities which are obtained through 10,000 performances of sacrificial rites. Prasadam is very powerful. Even if you give prasadam to an animal, the animal will become at least a human being and get the opportunity to partake of devotional service in his or her next life. Drinking charanamrita. Charanamrita is obtained in the morning while the Lord is being washed before dressing. It's the bathing water. And before the COVID time, the charanamrita was put out and everybody would take it in the morning. Now it's a little dangerous, but you can get some if you go humbly to the pujari and say, "Please put some in a little cup so I can taste the charanamrita." Scented with perfumes and flowers, the water comes gliding down through that means Krishna's lotus feet, and is collected, and Radharani's, and it collected and mixed with yogurt. In this way, the charanamrita not only becomes very tastefully flavored, but also has a tremendous spiritual value. As described in the Padma Purana, even a person who has never been able to give in charity, who has never been able to perform a great sacrifice, who has never been able to study the Vedas, who has never been able to worship the Lord. Phew. Or in other words, even one who has never done any pious activities will become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God if he simply drinks the charanamrita which is kept in the temple. In the temple, it is the custom that the charanamrita be kept in a big pot. The devotees who come to visit and offer respects to the deity take 3 drops of charanamrita very submissively and feel themselves happy in transcendental bliss. Next item is smelling the incense and flowers offered to the deity. In the Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya, there's a statement about the incense which is offered in the temple. When the devotees smell the good flavor of the incense which is offered to the deity, they thus become cured of the poisonous effects of material contamination as much as one becomes cured of a snake bite by smelling the prescribed medicinal herbs. The explanation of this verse is that there is a herb found in the jungles which expert persons know how to use to revive the consciousness of one who is bitten by a snake. Simply by smelling that herb, one becomes immediately relieved of the poisonous effects of the snake bite. The same example is applicable. When a person comes to visit the temple and smells the incense offered to the deity, he is cured at that time from all his material contamination. Any devotee coming into the temple should always offer something to the deity, fruit, flowers, incense, etc. If one cannot offer anything in cash, something else must be offered. In India, the system is that all the ladies and gentlemen who come in the morning to visit the temple bring so many things. Even one morsel of rice or one morsel of flour can be offered. It is a regulated principle that one should not go to see a saintly person or the deity in the temple without any offering. The offering may be very humble or it may be priceless. Even a flower, a little fruit, a little water, whatever is possible must be offered. So when a devotee comes to offer something to the deity in the morning, he is sure to smell the good flavor of the incense, and then at once he will become cleansed of the poisonous effect of material existence. It is stated in the Tantra Shastra, if the smell of the garland which was offered to the deity in the temple enters into a person's nostrils, immediately his bondage to sinful activities becomes cleared. And even if one has no sinful activity, still by smelling such remnants of flowers, one can advance from Mayavadi impersonalist to devotee. There are several instances of this, a prime one being the advancement of the four Kumaras. They were impersonalists, Mayavadis, but after smelling the remnants of flowers and incense in the temple, they turned to become devotees. From the above verse, it appears that the Mayavadis or impersonalists are more or less contaminated. They are not pure. So, of course, the story of the four Kumars, I think everybody knows. They went to Vaikuntha Loka and they were stopped from entering by Jaya and Vijay. And then Lord Vishnu came out and they were able to smell the remnants of the flowers and tulsi leaves and everything. And they became great devotees. It is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one who has not washed off all reactions of sinful activities cannot be a pure devotee. A pure devotee has no more doubts about the supremacy of the personality of Godhead, and thus he engages himself in Krishna consciousness and devotional service. A similar statement is in the Agastya Samhita. Just to purify the impurities of our nostrils, we should try to smell the remnants of flowers offered to Krishna in the temple. Next one is touching the deity. Now this is only for pujaris. In the Vishnu Dharmottara, there is a statement about touching the lotus feet of the Lord. It said, only a person who is initiated as a Vaishnava and is executing devotional service in Krishna consciousness has the right to touch the body of the deity. In India, there was an agitation during Gandhi's political movement because the low-born classes of men, like street sweepers and chandalas, are prohibited, according to the Vedic system, from entering the temple. Due to their unclean habits, they are prohibited, but at the same time, they are given other facilities so they may be elevated to the highest grade of devotional service by association with pure devotees. A man born in any family is not barred, but he must be cleansed. That cleansing process must be adopted. Gandhi wanted to make them clean simply by stamping them with a fictitious name, Harijana, children of God. And so there was a great tug of war between the temple owners and Gandhi's followers. Now, of course, we're not in favor of the caste system where certain people, according to birth or occupation, are kept out of the temple. That's not the point. But if people are unclean in different ways, and we're not going to mention all the different ways they're unclean, then obviously they can't go on the altar. Everybody, we believe everybody, if they have their body clean, is allowed to go into the bigger structure of the temple, but not the deity room. So to be allowed into the deity room, one has to have the second initiation, and one has to be purified with the regular chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and following the four regulative principles. And that can be anyone. Someone can be born in any family or of any external occupation except a butcher, of course, or any occupation that involves killing animals. Then the person can become purified. Simple as that. Ahobat swapachiyan yajivagre vartita namatubhyam te pustapus juhu vasharshna arya brahmanucha nama grananti yete ahobat swapacha togariyan. Sorry. That how wonderful it is that even if someone is born in a family of dog eaters, and that's pretty low, if he takes up the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and follows the four regulative principles, it's understood that he's actually done all the preliminary practices of purification and come to the point of being a real Brahman. Brahmanuchu nama gradantayate. So that's the point. But anyway, the present law is the law of all scripture, that if anyone is purified, he can enter into the temple. Actually, that is the position. Only one who is properly initiated. Here, temple means, according to Prabhupada, the actual deity room. Sometimes when we talk about temple, it means the bigger building where the deity room is inside. But in this particular case, it means the actual deity temple, that is where the deity is. Only one who's properly initiated, who is properly following the rules and regulations, can enter and touch the deity, not all. And one who touches the body of the deity following such regulated principles is immediately delivered from the contamination of material sins, and all of his desires become fulfilled without delay. Wow. Such a blessing. In the Varaha Purana, there's a statement, now we're talking about seeing the deity. In the Varaha Purana, there's a statement praising the seeing of the deity of Sri Krishna in the temple. A devotee says there, my dear Vasundhara, any person who goes to Vrindavan and sees the deity of Govinda Deva is free from the courthouse of Yamaraj and is allowed to enter into the highest planetary system in which reside the demigods. This means that even an ordinary person who goes to Vrindavan out of inquisitiveness and by chance sees the temple, especially that of Govinda Deva, even if he is not elevated to the spiritual kingdom, he still is assured promotion to the higher planetary systems. This means that simply by visiting the deity of Govinda in Vrindavan, one becomes highly elevated in pious life. Now, one interesting thing about visiting the deity of Govinda in Vrindavan is that the deity of Govinda is not in Vrindavan right now. It's an interesting story. There's the Govinda Dev temple, which was constructed by, or under the guidance of Srila Rupa Goswami. And this was a very large temple, larger than it is now. It's still a large temple, like 7 stories high. And what happened is that the Muslim governor or head, who was living, actually it was Aurangzeb, sorry, I actually know his name. It was Aurangzeb, who was the head of all the Mughals, was living in Agra. Agra's pretty far away from Vrindavan, something like 70 miles away from Vrindavan. It's a pretty long distance. But this temple was quite high. And on the top of the temple, they had this ghee lamp or some big lamp. Obviously, it wasn't an electric lamp. And from where Aurangzeb was in Agra, he could see the light of the ghee lamp from the Govindaji temple. What happened? He got really upset and didn't become a monster. He already was a monster. He actually manifested his demoniac qualities and ordered his soldiers to go there and destroy the temple. So they all went to Vrindavan, where the Govindaji temple was, and they started to tear the temple down. Fortunately, before that, the deity had been taken away from Vrindavan, and originally the deity was taken to Radhakund area for safety, which is further west from Vrindavan. And the reason I'm saying it's further west, because I'm going to explain, further west means on the way to somewhere else, which I'll describe in a second. So the deity was taken there for his safety. And they started to tear down the temple, beginning with the upper stories, and all of a sudden there was a rumbling and noise, and everyone thought the devastation was coming, and they ran away, and they were only able to tear down like the upper 2 or 3 stories. So the lower stories still remain of that particular temple. So anyway, I described how the deity was taken away to Radhakund. Many of the Vrindavan deities were originally taken to the Radhakund area because it was further west, right on the border of Rajasthan, not too far away from the border of Rajasthan. Actually, you see Govardhan. When you circumambulate Govardhan, of course, Rajasthan's another state in India, controlled by the Rajputs, which are very strong Hindus. Anyway, so when you circumambulate Govardhan, in a certain section, when you go around the tail of Govardhan, because Govardhan is shaped like a peacock, you enter into Rajasthan. So that's how close Rajasthan is to Govardhan. It's actually part of Govardhan is in Rajasthan, and that's how close Radhakund is to Rajasthan. So anyway, on the way to Rajasthan. So the deities were there. Not only Govindaji, but Radha Damodar, other deities were there. And then the Mughals got really angry. They thought the deities are there, and they wanted to go there and destroy the deities. They did so many horrendous things. Like sometimes they would take the marble deities and smash them and put the pieces in the road so people could step on them. Horrible. Or they would dig up the bodies of great saints that were buried in their samadhi and desecrate the buried bodies. Horrible. So what they did is they took the deity of Govindaji, as well as the other deities, not all in the same place, but at least the deity of Govindaji was taken to a place called Jaipur, a city of in Rajasthan. Jaipur means victorious city. And so the Muslims, or the Mughals, which were a particular type of Muslims, were not able to conquer Jaipur. And to this day, the deity of Govindaji is still there in Jaipur. And it's right, or he, not it, he is right in the middle of the city, he and Radharani, are right in the middle of the city, connected to the king's palace, like the palace grounds. And it's practically a regulated principle that every day, at least the Hindus, which is most of the people in Jaipur, will come to the temple and take darshan of Govinda before they go about their normal activities. So every morning they're chanting, Govinda, 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 as they're circumambulating the deity of Govinda. I've been there several times. And it's quite a beautiful sight to see the deity, and the deity is well protected there. So, if you want to see the deity of Govinda, you have to go to Jaipur. So, next. Observing Arati and celebrations of the Lord. Arati is the ceremony where you do the incense, the lamp, and the concha with water in it, and the handkerchief, and the flower, and the chamara whisk, and the peacock fan. Someone has a chat. Hope it's important. Actually, I'm not Mataji. So, someone sent me a chat and they said, Hare Krishna Mataji. Maybe they're revealing my spiritual form, but it's not right now. I think that's the first time I've been called Mataji. So, observing Arti and celebrations of the Lord. So, in the Skanda Purana is the following description of the result of seeing Arti, worship of the deity. If someone sees the face of the Lord while Arti is going on, he can be relieved of all sinful reactions coming from many, many thousands and millions of years past. He is even excused from the killing of a Brahmin or similar prohibited activities. As we've already explained, there are different ceremonies to be observed, such as the birthday of Krishna, the birthday of Lord Ramchandra, the birthday of some prominent Vaishnavas, the ceremony of Julan Yatra, that's with the Lord on the swing, and Dola Yatra, the Lord's activities in the month of March. In all festivals, the Lord is seated on a car, and the car moves through different streets of the city. That's very beautiful, so that people may take advantage of visiting the Lord. In the Bhavishya Purana, this is in India, of course, in the traditional temples. In the Bhavishya Purana, it is said, in such a ceremony, if even a Chandala, dog-eater, simply out of curiosity sees the Lord on the cart, he becomes counted as one of the associates of Vishnu. In the Agni Purana is stated, any person who in gladness sees the worship of the deity in the temple will obtain the results of Kriya Yoga, which are described in the Pancharatra scripture. Kriya Yoga is the system of practice, much like practical devotional service, but it is especially meant for the mystic yogis. In other words, by this gradual process, the mystic yogis are eventually elevated to the devotional service of the Lord. So go to see Krishna. As the statement goes, if you are at all desirous of enjoying society, friendship, and love, don't go to see Krishna. Sort of a sarcastic statement. Because if you go to see Krishna, then the beautiful things of this world will appear insignificant. There was a story I told some time ago in the Bhagavad Gita classes that once upon a time, there was this one gentleman who was very much attached to his girlfriend. His name was Dhanur Das, and he was fanning her, held an umbrella over her head. It was just like Rath Yatra for girlfriends. And some of the disciples of Sripad Ramanujacharya, a great saint, saw him and they were laughing. Ramanujacharya said, "Don't laugh at this guy. I want to hear why he's doing that." So he calls this the guy Dhanurdas over and he says, "Why are you doing that?" And Dhanurdas says, "I can't keep my eyes off her. She has beautiful eyes." And so Ramanujacharya said to him, "If I could show you someone with more beautiful eyes, do you want to come?" And this Dhanurdas said, "Sure, show me." And so that night they went to the temple and he saw the deity and he fell in love with Krishna. There's that song, "Oh, what beautiful eyes, what great big beautiful eyes." Anyway, so he fell in love with Krishna. So that's the point. If you fall in love with Krishna, then everybody else is 10th rate. I was going to say second rate, but 10th rate. Not even 10th rate. You can't even rate them. So, because all the beauty in this world is temporary. It's simply based upon some arrangement of atoms and molecules, or in the case of people, skin and bones and pus. Anyway, don't want to gross everyone out. So it's just, and it's temporary too. Whoops, I pressed the wrong key. It's temporary too. It just fades away. Life's fading beauty. Here today and gone tomorrow. A fragrance in the wind, a wave tossed in the ocean. There's a song I wrote. Actually, I didn't say fading beauty, but I said, life's a fading flower. Just like you pick a very beautiful flower. We have so many flowers here that we grow. Especially in our neighbor's garden, they really grow nice flowers. Much better than we grow in the temple. And sometimes we take the flowers with permission. Of course, they're devotees. For the deities. And such beautiful flowers. Zinnias, roses, marigolds even. All sorts of wonderful, beautiful flowers. And they smell so nicely. And guess what happens? After 2 or 3 or 4 days, that beautiful thing gets brown. It starts to fade. So that's the nature of this world. Whatever is beautiful, wonderful, starts to fade, goes away, and even our ability to appreciate beauty starts to fade as you get older. So anyway, I think we should go on to the next chapter. Yeah, we can start the next chapter just a little bit. The next chapter is called Techniques of Hearing and Remembering. So, hearing, start with the beginning of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is hearing. In Sanskrit, it is called Shravanam. Let me just check my book to see how long these things are. Wait a second. Just want to make sure we don't want to get too far. Anyway, let's keep reading. All people should be given a chance to come and join devotional parties so they may hear. This hearing is very important for progressing in Krishna consciousness. When one blinks his ears to give oral reception to the transcendental vibrations, he can quickly become purified and cleansed in the heart. Lord Chaitanya has affirmed that this hearing is very important. It cleanses the heart of the contaminated soul so that he becomes quickly qualified to enter into devotional service and understand Krishna consciousness. In the Garuda Purana, the stress on hearing is expressed very nicely. It is said there, the state of conditional life in the material world is just like that of a man lying unconscious having been bitten by a snake. This is because both such unconscious states can be ended by the sound of a mantra. When a man is snake bitten, he does not die immediately, but first becomes unconscious and remains in a comatose condition. Anyone who is in the material world is also sleeping, as he is ignorant of his actual self or his actual duty and his relationship with God. So materialistic life means that one is bitten by the snake of Maya illusion and thus without any Krishna consciousness is almost dead. Now, the so-called dead man bitten by a snake can be brought back to life by the chanting of some mantra. There are expert chanters of these mantras who can perform this feat. Similarly, one can be brought back into Krishna consciousness from the deadly, unconscious state of material life by hearing of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in other words, right now, we are basically in a dream. This world is real, but also in a very real sense, you can say your dream is real while you're experiencing it. Because, as Prabhupada said, when you think of something, that's where you are. It's real. And this world is real. But your identification with the dream and your identification with the world is not real. So when you chant the Mahamantra, as Lord Kapiladev states in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Satam prasangam mama virya sambado bhavanti karna rasayana kata tajoshana dasu apavarga bhartmani shraddha aratir bhaktir nukramishati. That one who chants and hears in the association of devotees prasangam about Krishna, mama virya samvidaha, bhavanti harit karna. In this way, the sound vibration goes from the ear to the heart, and it acts very medicinally, and also it's very tasty at the same time, very pleasant. Not all medicine in this material world is tasty, but it's very medicinal and very tasty. Rasayana Katha, that talk, or the Krishna Katha, is very tasty and curing. Tajoshanat Ashu, Apavarga Bhatmarni. So in this way, one proceeds on the path of getting out of the material world. And that path is described in brief by the final line of this verse. Shraddha Anukrameshati. That one gets firm faith or trust in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shraddha in this case means giving one's heart. Actually, that's the full meaning of the word Shraddha, to give one's heart. Shraddha Ratir, one gets a taste for hearing and chanting. And then finally, one gets the ultimate goal, bhakti, which is Krishna Prema. It all starts with hearing. And as I've spoken many times before, that's how my Krishna consciousness got started, when I was listening to the radio and Srila Prabhupada was on the radio, or at least his record was on the radio, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and it was like, wake up, sleeping soul, Jeev Jago, Goda Chanda Bole, or Prabhupada Bole. Kota Nidra, oh Maya, Pisa Chira Kole. That song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. How long have you been sleeping in the lap of the illusory energy, which is like a witch that's bewitched you, hypnotized you? So anyway, so we will end here and take some questions. Whoops. Hold on 1 second. Allow participants to unmute themselves. And once someone already has a question, let me get to them first. That's a chat. Is it okay to spin while dancing in front of the altar? Yes. That is perfectly all right. Spin. Spin, spin, spin. That's ecstatic dancing. Spin, spin, spin. But don't continually turn your back to the deities, but you could spin. Whew. I mean, Krishna appreciates that. Yeah, spin. But don't go have a kirtan where your back is for 5 minutes to the deities. That's actually inappropriate. But you could spin while you're dancing for the deities. That's very nice. Okay. It was interesting. Someone sent me a message. Hare Krishna Mataji Jai Gurudev. I guess they're revealing my spiritual identity. So don't call me Mataji from now on. Anyways, all right, so next.
Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Oh, Sumukha. Okay, good to hear from you.
Thank you, Gurudev.
What's up?
Everything is good here. Just to this Nectar of Devotion you were reading, says that and one who touches the body of the deity following such regulative principles is immediately delivered from the contamination of material sins,
Mm-hmm.
and all his desires become fulfilled. So,
Yes.
what is the desires he's talking about here, Gurudev?
Your soul's desires, not necessarily your material desires. Because
How would
otherwise,
I?
we'd have every pujari going to the deity and just saying, I mean, I would go up and say, please give me a Tesla, and it won't work. Your soul's desires. Krishna knows what you desire at heart, your real needs, not not all your wants. You understand?
Yes,
In other
yes.
words, you'll become happy, you'll become fulfilled. That's the real point.
Okay.
Not
This
that you
another.
go to Krishna and Krishna's like the menu at some restaurant.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Great. Another question. Sometimes we say we are Gaudiya Vaishnava. What do you mean by Gaudiya, Gurudev?
Gaudiya means followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gaudiya. Gaudadesh. It comes from Gaudadesh, which is the area where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. You understand?
Yes, Gurudev.
Gaudadesh Desh means the place. Might
Mm.
be similar to Hindi.
Yes, yes, yes.
Like Desi, like the cows born in India are called Deshi cows, like that. That means the cows of the land.
Okay.
So Gaudadesh means the land of Gauda, which is the land of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we're followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, with Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya, to be precise. That means our Sampradaya starts with Lord Brahma, and of course, the modern founder Acharya in the main Sampradaya, main branch of the Sampradaya, is Sripad Madhvacharya. And then we're followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so we're called Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Does that make sense?
Yes, Gurudev.
Gaudadesh, Gaudiya. That means the Vaishnavas that pertain to Gaudadesh, which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's place.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank. Yes, thank
And
you,
we're
Gurudev.
Fiji Desh, the Vaishnava
Thank
that
you.
pertains to Fiji. Okay,
Yes.
very good. So, who else has a question?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, I'll ask a question.
Jai Radhika. So, all right. I think you got to speak loudly.
Oh,
Somehow or
okay.
other,
Okay.
everybody's really low.
So, my question is, you mentioned about Guru Maharaj, uh, Prayojana is our goal. Krishna Prema is our goal.
Yeah, Krishna Prema is the goal, right?
Yes. So, could you please explain about Sneha, which is above Krishna Prema, I believe, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's not.
Sneha is one of the stages, and it refers to affection. That technically means affection.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
part of prema. It's one of the stages of prema. Uh, it's one of the stages of prema.
Okay. Stages of Prema. Okay.
Yeah, one of the stages of prema.
Right.
Uh, yeah, culminating with Mahabhav. That's the highest stage.
Mahabhav is the highest stage,
But you
right?
don't.
Yeah.
That's for Radharani,
Yeah,
not for you.
yeah, that's right. It's not for us. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Pranaya, Sneha.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's one of the stages. Lead. It's one of the stages of prema.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Even prema has different stages, culminating in Mahabhav.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not our objective though. It's just up to
Yeah,
Krishna Prema. It's just
not
up.
Mahabhav. Not
Yeah. Not
my objective is just to please Prabhupada. I don't know about the rest of you.
Bhava.
And I know Shara Shabde Vishal Shakahe Sudrita Nischayat. I have that faith that just by pleasing Prabhupada, everything will be accomplished.
Yes.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be having all these GBC Zoom conferences every day. I would just be concentrating on my sneha and pranaya. I'd be at Govardhan right now, just hey Radhe Brajadevake, hey Nanda Shuno Kuta.
That'll be
Like the
nice.
6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, it's described they would reside at Govardhan and other places in Vrindavan and run around. Where are you, Krishna? Where are you, Radharani? Hey, Nanda Shuno. That means Nanda's son. Kutaha, where are you? So if I didn't have faith that serving Prabhupada will get me there or will please Krishna, phew, it would be goodbye, cruel world. I'm off to become a Babaji. Like that song from the 1960s. Goodbye, cruel world. I'm off to become a Babaji. But my faith is by pleasing Prabhupada, even if it means taking on anxiety. I mean, like tomorrow morning, I have a Zoom conference, and not a class, but a Zoom conference at a little after 5 in the morning. And today I had Zoom conferences. Every day is more and more. And Wednesday I have another GBC Zoom conference. And Thursday another GBC Zoom conference. And Saturday, I'm not even sure. Thursday, do I have? Yeah. I'm not even sure what's going to happen. Yeah, Saturday morning I have another one. And some of them last for 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
And I'm doing this to please Prabhupada. And I know Shraddha Shabde Vishad Shukahe Sujita Nishya, that by doing this, then I will get Krishna's mercy.
Jai. Thank you, Gurudev.
So, when you reach Mahabhav, let me know.
I'd be happy to reach Krishna Prema by your grace, Guru Maharaj.
Yes, then serve the mission of Prabhupada, and then you will reach Krishna Prema
Krishna.
for sure. Help this Krishna consciousness move and expand.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Praneshwar is asking a question. I see his hand up. Okay, Praneshwar.
My question is from yesterday class regarding Srila Prabhupada said about to be punctual and compassionate. So how to be more punctual in devotional service? Because
Punctual means on time. Is that what you're asking about?
yes,
How to be on time? Got to watch. Do you have a watch? No.
yes,
Let's see your watch. Is it on your wrist? No. Yeah, he's laughing because his watch is not on his wrist. So that's an easy question. How to be punctual? Here it is.
yes.
Oops, disappearing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur always carried a watch. Srila Prabhupada always carried a watch. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur always carried a watch. The rest of you are thinking your mobile phones are sufficient. But your mobile phone is in your pocket, so you're not going to consult it that much. Whereas your watch is on your wrist. So, you have another question? No? I can't hear you. Oh, he doesn't have another question. All right, that's how you become punctual. You become responsible. Punctuality and cleanliness are the most important items in deity worship. So, who else has a question?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Can I ask one question?
Oh, yes. Sounds like Radha Padma.
Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. My question is, the spiritual master of Srila Narottam Das Thakur is Srila Lokanath Goswami.
Yeah.
But in the Chaitanya Charitamrita chapter 1, where we were talking about spiritual masters, it says that the direct disciple of Sri Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami is Srila Narottam Das Thakur. So how is this direct
That's a
disciple
direct Shiksha relationship.
Shiksha relationship? Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely a Shiksha relationship. Because Narottama Das Thakur definitely took initiation, Diksha initiation, from Lokanath Goswami. And there's an interesting story about it. That Lokanath Goswami had vowed never to initiate anyone. But Narottama Das Thakur, he was so determined, he would clean up actually the place where his respective guru was passing stool. He'd clean that place every day. And one day the guru actually, that is Lokanath Goswami, happened to look out, and he saw who was cleaning. And he said, "What do you want?" He said, "I want to take initiation from you." And he said, "I've been ordered never to give, or I've taken a vow, never to give initiation." And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally gave him the instruction to initiate Narottama Das Thakur. So he's the initiating spiritual master. Whereas the Siksha, one of the Shiksha gurus, obviously would be Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Is that right? Yeah, because there's Siksha relationships as well as Diksha relationships.
And that can be said as direct disciple, like Shiksha relations can be direct disciples too.
Yes, because for example, you have, in the case of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you can say that he's the direct disciple of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. But he wasn't initiated by Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. He was initiated by Vipini Vihari Goswami, someone else. So in our disciplic succession, you have many Siksha links. I mean, also with Baladev Vijabhushan, you have a Siksha link. So in many cases, you have Shiksha links in our disciplic succession.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vijabhushan, like that. That's also a Shiksha link. And this way, everyone can have a direct relationship with Prabhupada, of course. At the same time, we should have a direct relationship with our initiating. We don't want to be Ritviks who say, "Oh, Prabhupada is my guru," and the other guy was just like, he just came to the fire sacrifice. So, yeah, actually everyone is meant to accept Prabhupada as their Siksha Guru in ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Good question. Okay, one more question from everybody. Someone who hasn't asked a question. Sumukh, you asked too many questions already. No. Let someone else ask a question. Someone who hasn't asked a question yet. Anybody? Nobody. Nobody has a question to ask. Oh my God. Something's going wrong if nobody has a question to ask. Okay, Sumukh, you're on. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, you can hear me now, Gurudev?
I can hear you now.
Okay. In this chapter, submission, it was written here, when this desiring, so when one realizes something of his constitutional relationship with the Supreme Personality of God, that he understands his original position and wants to be reinstated in this position, either as a friend, servant, parent. So question is, when one realizes something of his consciousness, that means that one day I will realize this.
Yes. Yes, that means one day if you continue serving nicely and not committing offenses to the Vaishnavas and everything like that, yeah, one day you will realize it. Even you. Hard to believe, but even you will realize who you are in the spiritual world. Guaranteed. Prabhupada guaranteed it. Everyone here who continues chanting and following the practices, doesn't commit offenses, will realize their spiritual identity. And then you can text me after you've realized it.
I will do that.
Send me a text. Say,
Okay.
Sumukh can say, I've just realized I'm Sumukhi Gopi in the spiritual world. And then then I'll tell you that your service is to clean the kunj. Anyway, whatever. That's funny. Okay, on that happy note, we will see everybody tomorrow night, same time, same station. Thank you very much for joining us. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.